Well, now we're going to bring in a guest. I'm trying to think of the words that I can use to let the audience know just how special this man is. He is an OG, which means more than just being old. But Jarrett Bell helped set the table for so many of us covering the NFL today. Was doing it long before I started. Somebody I read, somebody I looked up to. And for him this year to be the recipient of the Bill Nunn Jr. Award, which means he now has a place in the Hall of Fame. And actually, even more significantly to me, he is now the first Black to be enshrined, who will be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as the winner of this award is so significant, so long overdue, and I couldn't be more happy and more proud. And with that, I bring in Jarrett Bell, who has been holding it down for a long time for many of us. So JB, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good, Trot. Thanks for those kind words. You and C-Rob, great to join you guys. And yeah, Trot, you might say I'm setting the table because you have honors on your journey ahead as well. So it's just, good to be in this spot right now and to be able to relish this moment. It's been pretty cool.
JB, I'm just curious though, man, all the work that you have put in over the years, over the decades, to get this type of recognition, I mean, how does that feel? What does that mean to you?
It's special, and it's weird because I've heard from so many people around the NFL, in the NFL universe, from Hall of Fame players to current coaches and GMs and agents and, obviously media colleagues. And so it really has made me just stop and reflect a little bit. And, we don't like to do a whole lot of that because it's always like, what's the next thing I've got to do and what's the next story? But I will admit that this has been that moment for me because, I was a finalist like 4 years in a row. And so when you don't get it, you start thinking, okay, well, maybe it may never happen. And so for it to finally happen was a big relief. And for me personally, it's come at a good time as well, as I've been, transitioning with some things in my personal life and losing my mom last year. It's really been a blessing. So praise God for that, no doubt, first and foremost.
JB, was there one call or one message that resonated with you most?
Jerry Jones of all people, and well, I shouldn't say of all people because I've had a long relationship with him going back to my days in Dallas. So it was good to see him. And then I saw him. So he sent me a video message, and then I saw him at the owners meeting in Atlanta here a couple weeks after that. And, he expressed some things that added another dimension to it as well, saying that the value of this award is, enhanced. And I didn't even think of it like that. But anyway, it's weird because I'm one of these people, Jim. I don't like to toot my own horn or to brag or, to really just bask in self glory, if you will. So that's kind of been one of the things as well that has, really kind of struck me just in terms of, okay, let's keep it all in perspective because, there are highs and lows and ebb and flow to life.
I don't want to leave out Jarrett is a Michigan State Spartan, by the way. I think it's important that we get that on the record. Okay.
That's right.
We can never have too many Spartans in the Hall of Fame. All right. So I want to make sure I get that in there. But I told Jim, it was interesting because when we were talking about, you, Jarrett, and winning this award, and one of the things when I came up, covered the NFL for 20 plus years now, I remember being out and seeing Jarrett talking to owners, general managers, head coaches, and then the next day seeing him throw the fastball. not walking away from a difficult story or calling him. I mean, Jerry Jones, I remember seeing Jarrett write things about Jerry Jones and being like, next time he sees Jerry, it's going to be interesting what that's going to look like. But that is such a immense point of respect that you have when you come up in the industry and you learn and you see people who are not afraid to go, no, I'm gonna say what's got to be said. I'm going to report it the way it's got to be reported. And then I'm going to walk into that locker room the next day, or I'm going to walk into that building the next day and know I'm going to see those people. And that's just something that I've always wanted to tell Jarrett, that in the 20 years that, I've had a chance to be the little baby Spartan following in your footsteps, I have always really enjoyed that.
I appreciate that, Charles, because I think one of the things that I've kind of been driven by or guided by, if you will, is the thought, I've got to look people in the eye the next time I see them. And that's, when you talk about telling someone's story or getting their quotes or getting the facts right. So you always, you're not beholden to the individual that you are interviewing, obviously, because you're driven and you're beholden to the reader, the viewer, and to yourself as a journalist. And so you can really, because one of the things that I see in this business is that people do a lot of favors for a lot of people, okay? And people protect a lot of people, and people may ignore writing about something because one of their sources is maybe being shown in an unflattering light or something to that effect. And so it's always kind of been my thing to say, I'm going to just tell it like it is or like I see it, because a lot of times it's my opinion too, now that I'm a columnist. And, you still, even though you are entrusted to have an opinion, you don't want to be irresponsible with that opinion. You want to have your facts straight, and you want to have good reason for your opinions and for reporting on the news and all of that. But I think the thing that you always have to be guided by is the fact that you are writing for your readers and writing for yourself from the standpoint that you have standards that you live by, and not writing for the source. And I think people respect that in the long run. I really do. They may not agree with everything you write, but they can respect that they told you what they thought, and they can respect that you had your opinion and you tried to express it in a responsible manner. So that is kind of the way I go about it. And it cuts down on a whole lot of confusion, as opposed to trying to protect someone and soft shoe with someone.
JB,
Before we wrap and get out of here.
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Trot. Take it.
I was going to ask you, JB, along those lines today. We know the story of the day is Deshaun Watson, and I just wanted to get your takeaway on this entire situation and where we're at in this discussion.
Yeah, obviously the news of a few days ago with the settlements really kind of was the shoe that had to drop from that standpoint. And now we're talking about the discipline and the disciplinary officer, Susan Robinson. It's going to be interesting because, the NFL and the NFLPA has a new disciplinary process. And retired Judge Susan Robinson will hear this case and make a decision, which the NFL and Roger Goodell can still come back and disagree with that decision, if you would. That's a real weird part of this. But I still understand the fact that the union and the league tried to get together to have an officer hear it and start from there. So that's the baseline. But when you start thinking about some of the other situations, and no criminal charges, obviously, with Deshaun, right? Well, not obviously, but not. Okay. And so when you talk about that as part of trying to weigh what is a significant, if that's the word, or what's a fair suspension, it's going to be real tough when you start looking at some of the other situations, including some of those team owners that we talk about. We mentioned Jerry, and there's been, a couple situations there that have been unflattering for him. But even deeper than that, Robert Kraft and the situation from a couple years ago with him. And so you look at how the NFL disciplined or did not discipline its owners, and now all of a sudden you're talking about personal conduct. Well, what standard are you going to apply to Deshaun Watson, who has no criminal case? So I think that's what I want to find out, like all of us really, is, and even more so than what the actual number will be, is how they arrive at that decision. And you put that into context with all the other cases that have come across Roger Goodell's desk in recent years.
Charles, we got 1 minute
Before we get
left.
out of here, yeah, 1 minute. I just wanted to ask you something that Jim and I discussed earlier. I'm curious what your opinion is. Do you think the league will agree, whatever Susan Robinson decides, whatever Sue Robinson weighs the facts, comes out, says this is what I believe the suspension should or shouldn't be, do you think they'll just ultimately settle on that? They'll agree with that rather than, being that this is our first big decision, do you think they'll say, we put this disciplinary process in place, now we're going to go ahead and honor it rather than appeal it?
Yeah, that seems to be a logical thing to do, Charles, really. But we know that doesn't always happen. So I think it really, the bottom line to that answer is, to that question, is it depends on what she rules. So if she comes out and rules he needs to sit for a year, the league may want that. And that's kind of what they would sign off on. If she comes out and says, well, no charges, let's look at what happened with Ben Roethlisberger a few years ago and give him 4 games, then the league may push back on that. So it's tough to predict. And but really, I think the logical thing to do would be to say, and then the union would have to be on the other side saying the same thing. But basically, we came up with this system. We entrusted this, neutral disciplinary officer. So let's roll with it.
JB, we got to run, but we appreciate you, man, and so happy for you and proud of you. So look forward to seeing you in camp.
Hey, thanks a lot, Trot, and C-Rob, you too. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.